A reading from the Gospel of John. After saying this, Jesus was troubled in spirit and declared, "Very truly, I tell you, one of you will betray me." The disciples looked at one another, uncertain of whom he was speaking. One of his disciples, the one whom Jesus loved, was reclining next to him. Simon Peter, therefore, motioned to him to ask Jesus, of whom was he speaking? So while reclining next to Jesus, he asked him, "Lord, who is it?" Jesus answered, "It is the one whom I give this piece of bread when I have dipped it in the dish." So when he dipped the piece of bread and he gave it to Judas, the son of Iscariot, after he received the piece of bread, Satan entered into him. Jesus said to him, "Do quickly what you are going to do." Now, no one at the table knew why Jesus said this to him. Some thought that because Judas had the common purse, Jesus was telling him, "Buy what you need for the festival," or that he should give something to the poor. So after receiving the piece of bread, he immediately went out, and it was night. When he had gone out, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify in himself, him in himself, and will glorify him at once." We are Easter people living in a Good Friday world. Today, we hear that Jesus was an Easter person living in a Good Friday world. In this time of quarantine, I love hearing Jesus say, "Do quickly what you're going to do." Jesus is bracing for the worst few days of his life, and he wants to hit the fast forward button. As we are being told by scientists, America is facing the most difficult week in modern history. Many of us are also searching for the fast forward button. Like Jesus, we are facing loss, fear, sickness, and death. And we are saying, "Do quickly what you're going to do." In her book, Plan B, Further Thoughts on Faith, Anne Lamott says, "I don't have the right personality for Good Friday and the crucifixion. I'd like to skip ahead to the resurrection. In fact, I'd like to skip ahead to the resurrection vision of one of my Sunday school students who drew a picture of the Easter bunny outside of an open tomb, everlasting life, and a basket full of chocolates. Now you're talking," she says. In John's Gospel today, we hear Jesus' desire for Judas to go on, do his thing, set this thing in motion, and let's move quickly to the open tomb, everlasting life, and a basket full of chocolates. We hear in this passage that Jesus is living in a Good Friday world. He's scared. He feels betrayed by one of his closest friends, which is the worst kind of betrayal. He feels lied to, anxious, and alone. Jesus knows that his only way to Easter is through the next few days, and he wants to speed things along. Jesus was an Easter person living in a Good Friday world. The distance between loss and light is long. The space between pain and rising is messy. We are in the middle of the mess. So is Jesus. And not even he could skip over the worst of it. He tried, but not even Jesus could force Judas to hurry up already, nor could he control the people around him to make things less painful for him. The angry table flipping, angsty, and teensy bit controlling Jesus that we have seen in our readings this week has really resonated with me. We want to get to the open tomb, and we may not be on our best behavior as we travel this path to Easter. Give yourself grace. Jesus wasn't on his best behavior in the Good Friday world either. Some of our pain, anger, and angst during this time of COVID-19 comes from the uncertainty of how long this Good Friday world will last. and our struggle to find meaning in the mess of it. Once again, we can look to Jesus in the story of Judas. Thousands of years have passed, and we do not know for certain why Judas betrayed his friend. We still grapple to make sense of how an innocent man could be arrested, tortured, and crucified by those in power. Our desire to speed along, find meaning and motive and logic in the dark night may never be resolved, and it certainly won't be resolved for us by Easter Sunday. But at the end of our reading, Jesus said, God will be glorified. Jesus does not discuss motive, grand meanings, or logic. He's just faithful that God will make this time matter. Jesus is confident that the part he will play in God's plan in this Good Friday world will matter. We may be identifying a lot with the angsty and angry Jesus we have seen on this journey to the cross this week. But Easter people also feel the pull of faith and hope. We have faith that God will make Good Friday matter. What Judas set in motion was unimaginable, but Jesus knew that his pain would matter. We are Easter people, and we have faith that Jesus' pain and suffering matters. As Easter people, we find examples of Jesus' love in these challenging times through acts of kindness to our neighbors and heroic works of healthcare workers in feeding the hungry and comforting the scared. We believe that God will make the pain, betrayal, grief, and death matter. In the meantime, we sit in that upper room in the Good Friday world with Jesus and wait, confident that this time will matter.